You're listening to Real Talk live streaming from downtown Sarasota. This is John Rawlings, and I have a really special guest in the house. And I'm going to let her introduce herself because I can't seem to get her name correct, and she's corrected me twice. So I'm going to let her take the stage here real quick and give you some insight on who she is and what she does for the city.
All
Go ahead,
right.
Val.
Hi, everyone. I'm Valerie Malignowski. I'm the Grants Division Manager for the City of Northport. And me and my team, we oversee all the city's grants and also our FEMA reimbursement for city damages. So that's a little bit about what I do and who I am.
Fantastic. So, why is it important? And I'm going to ask and please, if you have questions and you want to learn, uh, post away. I will post your questions and we'll engage with you. It's like a town hall live with our famous grant writer, our grant manager. But your team does a whole lot. Can you give an overview of why it's important for your division that you manage? Why is that it's so important for the citizens to understand?
Well, first of all, we're trying really hard to bring taxpayer money back into the city. So basically, whenever we go after state and federal grants in particular, that's money that we're paying somehow in some form of taxes or some other method. And we try really hard to bring those funds back into the city to offset some of our large projects and things like that. Another thing that we're really active in doing is just making sure that our grants stay in compliance with all the rules that are out there. So nobody cares about that part. We do. And we're really involved in making sure that we're passing audits. We're accounting for the money like we're supposed to. We're spending it like we're supposed to. Me and my team, we do a lot of that. So it's actually some of the more difficult part of the positions, I would say. But our main focus, though, is to bring that money back into the city, use it on our strategic plan priorities, the things that the city should be doing, and help out the taxpayers.
And people don't understand a lot of the stuff with the hurricanes. So I know that we've had you on before and we've talked about this in depth. But can you give us an update on some of the past funding situations of the hurricanes before? I know we utilized a lot of money and we're trying to recoup some of that. Can you kind of talk us through that?
Sure. So what happens when we have a disaster is the grants team jumps in and we start collecting our damages that we have throughout the city. And those damages are things like building damages. It could be things like debris pickup, personnel costs, those types of things. We're gathering that immediately after any kind of disaster or storm. And those eventually turn into what's called the Federal Emergency Management Agency Public Assistance Grants. They call them PA grants. And we get reimbursed for a certain percentage of that. It's a very long and tedious process. We are still in the process of trying to obtain the rest of our reimbursement from Hurricane Irma, which happened 9 years ago, which is 2017. And a lot of that is audits. We get audited. We have to prove that we had damages. During the audits, we'll get questions, things like, do you have pictures of the damages before the storm? Do you have all of your maintenance records? They want to see our union contracts and how we pay people. They want to see the contracts that we procured to make sure that we procured them correctly. There's a lot of nuances that come with our disaster reimbursement. So with Hurricane Irma, we're almost there. We have about $25,000 still outstanding that we're waiting to be released. Our COVID, we had a COVID claim, which wasn't large, but that finally closed this past year. Hurricane Ian, we're in it right now. So we've finished most of the building damages that we have. I kind of look out towards my window because the police station's over there and that roof was replaced as part of those
Right.
damages. And so a lot of those damages have been repaired, with the exception of War Mill Springs, Fire Station 81, which of course just was demoed. So now what we're doing is we're taking our actual costs, what we receive from insurance, you have to deduct that, and then start talking to FEMA about what money remains. So that's the process that we're going through right now. It's a lot. FEMA likes to question our costs, which, I mean, it's their funding. So they go through all of that, and that's where we're at right now.
So is it true about FEMA that they like to give, but they like to keep it?
Sometimes,
you know what I just said.
I know. So it's a lot for us to make sure that we're following our processes right. So they want to see pre-storm damages. So we rely on Google Earth a lot of times for things if we don't already have pictures. Luckily, our insurance team here and our risk team, they took some pre-storm photos from Ian. So we're having a pretty good time getting through some of that. Some other things were like, how well are you maintaining that building is another thing that they'll question us on. Like, does it look like there's been deferred maintenance or something like that? And if we can't prove that we maintain some buildings, it makes it more difficult. Like, we end up having to argue with FEMA, and they could make a determination on some of these damages that they don't agree with. And we have a chance to appeal it. And it's just a process that we go through. It takes a lot of time. So I sometimes joke that I may be retired by the time Ian actually is 100% paid out. I don't know. We'll see.
Kind of scary, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, being that Irma has taken not going on 9 years now, this fall will be 9 years since Irma. Ian, I expect, unless if there's changes at the federal government, and they decide to do something different, which they've been talking about doing. I don't know if they'll do it for past damages, but going forward, they're trying to find some different ways of making the reimbursement process maybe a little easier and a little speedier for us.
We talked about this before, but the fact that the delay, so you're kind of connected with budget in the sense that when we have large expenditures like these crises that we've had, and then the reimbursement side of things, we're taking money out of the kitty to kind of cover the costs.
Yeah.
And yet we're managing things. So when that gets replenished, it doesn't come in like it goes out. You're
right.
You guys are cutting massive checks to go out, and then trying to put pieces back together, right?
Right. One really good thing that happened during Hurricane Ian was all the debris collection. We're talking millions upon millions of dollars in debris collection that we did after Hurricane Ian. And we have a consultant that helps us with those claims for the debris, because debris is so specialized. It's not like some of the things like the personnel costs and things like that we can handle internally, but debris, there's a certain way that FEMA wants things documented and accounted for, and we have to hire somebody to help us do that. And that consultant recommended that we file our claims a certain way. They have different avenues of going after the reimbursement. And we went after what was called the streamlined reimbursement. And we were actually reimbursed very quickly for a lot of our storm damage for the debris pickup. So we were one of the first ones in the state. I think it was us and Fort Myers were the two first claims that were approved. So, I mean, we have help, to help with some of those things to try to make sure that we're getting some of those big chunks back quickly. but some of it's just going to take time.
How does that equate to other projects that you guys were involved in? There has to be, uh, there's always a consequence to having outgoing at that point, and then
Yeah.
trying to maneuver all these projects that you guys are working on collectively.
Yeah. So at the time, after Hurricane Ian, there was a group of us at the leadership level that met and talked a lot about what projects we have on the table right now. What can we pause temporarily to try to free up some funds? And some of that happened. There were some parks projects and some of those things that were deferred or delayed for just a little bit until we could start getting some of that reimbursement back. So I don't think it was very many projects, but I do know that of a few of them that were temporarily delayed, just to, make sure that we had the revenue and, all the money that we needed back from that.
So can we talk? I want to take one particular subject because it's always a hot button. I think it's cooled down and I don't want to reheat it, but Warm Mill Springs has been a long, drawn out project, and I don't want to call it a process anymore. We've got some structure on what should be happening. How do you guys in your department? How does that play into the plan for Warm Mill Springs' future?
Well, right now, we're working with FEMA on what that reimbursement cost will look at like for damages. So some of the Warm Mill Springs structure that was damaged is not going to be reimbursable from FEMA because of what is looking like deferred maintenance, like on the roof and things like that. But Warm Mill Springs sustained flooding in the building during Hurricane Ian. And so those are the types of damages that we can go after. There was, functional buildings that were getting either used for storage or, the welcome center, the entrance, those types of things that were damaged inside and internally. And those types of damages were requesting reimbursement from FEMA. But the grants team, separately from that, we're looking for other grants. And one of our grants coordinators, Mike Davey, he's been working with parks very closely to try to find other state funds and some other grants that are out there to help with that project and push it forward. So the state has quite a few opportunities. It's just that they're very competitive. And also a couple of them haven't been funded. Like we did submit an application for the Legacy Trail part of it, this for Sun Trails, and the program just wasn't funded this year. It's a little bit of a challenge, but we're always looking for those grant funds for that.
So the reason I bring that up, it's from your point of view, it's important for citizens to hear from your side of things as the manager. And I'm going to ask you, like they say it, there's plenty of funding out there for grants to fix Warm Mill Spring. And my comment is always, if there were, they would have already found it because we have one of the best grant writing divisions out there right now. And I know that because everybody's trying to pluck from your people.
They are. It's true.
I know. And so you can't have both. You can't say we can fix the park and there's plenty of grants and we have the greatest grant writing organization and there's no grant money for these things. There's always a give and take with just about every grant that's out there because there's qualifications and disqualifications and timing and known timing. And can you talk a little bit about how hard you guys really focus in on Warm Mill Springs?
Yeah, sure. So in the past years, like between 2019 and 2023 or so, I applied for quite a few state opportunities with the help from our Parks and Recreation Department. And time and time again, just the competition is so stiff. It's tough. If you can't check out every single box on that application as it being the best project in the world, and you're going up against about 90 other projects, they're only going to fund about 18 of them. You have people on committees. So, when you send in the grant application, you think that I wrote this, it's beautiful, it's great. But on the other end of that, there's a group of people that take a look at that have their own opinion. And sometimes they have their own opinions.
Yeah.
Like for real.
For real.
Like they don't like War Middle Springs, maybe, or they stopped there one day and they didn't like it, or whatever. So you're dealing with outside things, not just your application sometimes, which is unfortunate, and there's been quite a few applications that we've tried to push through with the state too, for the water and sewer line, which is a component of War Middle Springs. I think we applied for that 2 or 3 times and wasn't funded. So we try to break it down into pieces, because really the best way to get grant funding is not going to be for funding the entire building. It's going to be for funding components of it, or maybe one of the buildings, and recently there's been a lot more trails applications open. So we've been going after the Legacy Trail, the trailhead components, those types of things. So that it's just what we've been looking for and looking after. But this spring there will be more than likely another grant that will open for the building components that we will likely apply for.
So those people who are out there listening to what I'm saying, don't get defensive, because really what I'm saying, and what I believe you're saying, is your attention to detail on War Middle Springs is 100% on task, but the availability of these grants aren't in the abundance of what other people say they are.
Yeah, and War Middle Springs, we're super lucky too, because we have, a grassroots group. We have supporters of that spring that we've tapped into in the past to get like letters of support and those types of things. So that those types of things make those applications stronger. We need these people that help support the Springs for applications sometimes, and we've been really fortunate to have that, to have some of those influences, nonprofits and some other, I think there's a historical group up in Sarasota that's been very supportive too. And those types of things help applications. We want that, and we try to bring in that help wherever we can.
Well, Sean's got a question. It's actually a really, really good question. Do you want to read that out loud real quick so everybody hears you?
Sure. Yeah. So this is from Sean. It says, is there a category of grants that would help get a new senior center partially or fully funded, or is that not the type of city project Northport can qualify for? So grants for buildings are very difficult to get. Usually when we try to get grants for buildings, we either try to break it down in components, like I mentioned for War Middle Springs, or state appropriations, because state appropriations has a lot more flexibility. The city kind of gets to make their priority on that, and then the state decides whether or not they want to fund it, right? So, and there's a lot more flexibility on how you can spend and use the funds. But to try to get funding for a senior center, it may be a little bit difficult. There may be some grants through the Community Development Block Grant Program through Sarasota County that we use, depending on if these are low to moderate income type people that are using that community center. So there's some possibilities. It would just depend on how that project would qualify, and what our long-term plans are going to be for that. Because I think that there's maybe some things up in the air about, what our long-term plans are with that building right now.
Well, and I know they talked about this through commission. I believe it was last week. I watched the tail end of that conversation, and all 5 commissioners are trying to figure out a way through a really tight window. And grant writing is not going to be the solving of the problem because it's down the road. So that's not. I want to kind of reiterate that because the funding, even if there were funding like that, it probably wouldn't be towards that scenario that's playing out.
It's not a quick fix. So let me put it this way. So, okay, a grant opens, right? We apply for a grant, we go through our internal process of everything and choose what, project's going to get submitted or whatever. We apply for the grant. We're waiting 10 to 12 months, sometimes up to 2 years, to find out if we get a grant award. You cannot start spending any grant funds for that project or anything that you want reimbursed for until you have a fully executed grant contract. So from the time of award, from the time you actually have a contract in your hands, it can take about 6 months. So it's a slow and painful process. We have 2 applications. One of them is going on 2 years, and it's a FEMA hazard mitigation grant project that we submitted for utilities project almost 2 years ago that we have not heard if we are awarded it yet or not. And then we also have another watershed grant out there that's been just about a year and we haven't heard anything. So, and that's also with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So grants are slow moving things. So, and the key thing is you can't start spending until you have a grant agreement. Like some grants will let you do, pre-award costs that are very limited, like within 60 or 90 days, and they have to have pre-approval and those types of things. But like most of these grants, you got to wait until you have them. And sometimes it's hard for our departments to even wait. That, we'll talk to them and they're like, you know what, we can't wait for the grant for that,
I want to build this backwards for a second, and Sean's got a good follow-up, but I want to ask this on the structure of things because, and it is kind of how you guys go about your daily scanning for grants. How do you organize what maybe commission and the direction that they have, and then in correlation with that, we've got an awesome city manager and staff that trickle that information down. But how is that chain of command? How does that impact how you guys do what you do?
Oh, it impacts it a lot. If my camera was on behind me, you would see a whiteboard that has all these upcoming grant opportunities with potential applications next to it, just like normal cycle things that we know are coming up, and what our priorities are. So what we do is we meet with our departments pretty regularly. We scan through the budget. We participate in the budget meetings and the discussions about our capital projects and things like that. When we see a new grant open, if we don't immediately have something that we're like, oh yeah, Parks needs this or Public Works needs this, then we reach out to the department that's most likely affected. Every once in a while, like the Resilient SRQ funds that Sarasota County had, their HUD funds, we had a list a mile long of things that we needed after Hurricane Ian. And it took basically a management team to sit down with that list, go through it, decide what should be the highest priorities, take it to commission, and let commission bless that. So I do that every year with appropriations for state and federal appropriations. I bring a list of commissioners on that because some of these, you can't, everybody wants everything. And some of these grants,
Right now.
I think too. I mean, and sometimes though, like if we know we can get a building grant, CDBG building grant, which is Community Development Block Grant. I'm sorry, we use acronyms a lot. I want to try to not do that here. For the senior center, then we're like, okay, we're going to put that on the senior center, on the CDBG list for next time. So now, Public Works has this water control structure. Maybe we can plug that one over here instead, right? So that's kind of how we break it down. We have it kind of charted out. When something new comes up that we're not expecting, then we talk about it. We see who might have a project and kind of take it from there.
How much money, and I guess maybe in terms of grant money, how much do we collect or bring in for what you guys do? I mean, I'm not asking that as a, like, you don't have to be precise, but we've got what, 5 grant writers?
Yeah.
So we have
two. So there's me, and then there's 2 grant coordinators and a disaster cost recovery coordinator. And our disaster cost recovery coordinators only in, like our disasters, Elsa, Irma, those types of things. Yeah. She's solely focused on the disaster reimbursement.
So we really have 3. Really,
yes,
right?
Yeah. And
so
then
we have
2,
3 people, and then 2 like the disaster type.
One handling disaster and 3 handling everything else.
Okay.
Is what we have right now.
The 3 that we have, let's just talk about that, because that's kind of the crew that you have, right?
Yeah.
So if we take those and we look at it on a analytics side of things with costs of what we have going out, I already know the answer to this, because I know you bring in more grant money than we spend to have you. And so I see by the smile that that's a fact. Because you guys are good at what you do. And how does that correlate back to the taxpayers themselves? Are we keeping our tax rates down? Or how is that really affecting the everyday taxpayer?
Yeah. Well, we're bringing money back into the city, basically. So projects that would otherwise not get done or get delayed, we're helping to speed a lot of that up. And so Resilient SRQ through the county is a great example. We were awarded almost $11 million.
Wow.
To widen the Malignowski Creek Bridge over here by the high school and harden that, make that more secure because of some of the,
Very needed.
Yeah. So that's a really big one. And that's a project that without that grant, that area of price needs to be widened anyway. We all know that. Right. Because of the high school and everything. So that would be years down the road. We also received 2 grants from that same fund for 2 of our water control structures and 2 other bridges. The Cocoa Plum Bridge and its Northport Boulevard was the other one. And those, they also have improvements that are needed, like upgrades and those types of things. So these are types of things that if we didn't go out and get grant funds, we would be waiting a really long time to get things done. Like I think Public Works, they budget 1 water control structure for design every year and 1 for construction every year. And I can't remember how many water control structures we have, but it's a lot. And
I think it's 70.
Yeah, it's a lot of them.
That's the number that's in my head.
Yeah. And so if we didn't go out and try to secure some of these grant funds that we're getting, we would only be doing 1 a year at our current, district rates that we're all paying. It's 1 a year. So we're helping to speed up some of those improvements that we need around the city.
we're such a young city, and yet it's kind of ironic how we're paying attention to our infrastructure early, where some of the surrounding cities around us have infrastructure that's been there for years, that they're going to have to start addressing some major upgrades real soon. And we don't have some of those problems. Now, ours are coming because we have to have sewer and water and get those all set up. But is there a distinct advantage for us right now being in our position versus the other side, as far as install versus replacement?
You were breaking up there. What was the question about install or replacement?
Sorry about that. As far
That's
as
okay.
like the water and sewer, is there an advantage for you as a grant writer when it comes to getting it and helping get grant money for that, or is it less because other cities are replacing?
Oh, so we're getting money for both. So we have two grants right now for expansion, sewer expansion, particularly because of the environmental impact. So we have two very large grants. One's a $3 million one. The other one's another 2.3 million. One from the state, one from the federal government, to expand some water and sewer lines. Also, we have a lot of grant applications, and we're awarded some for things like bypass pumps. Like we do so many of these behind the scene things, like people go flush a toilet and they don't think about it, right? So, but we're on our end, what we're doing is we are getting grants to help maintain those systems. So we do, sewer lining. We have grants for that. We also have a couple grants for the lift station bypass pumps, which is basically a generator system that keeps the crap moving if the
Right.
power goes out. So
That,
it's a
that, that,
resiliency
that's, a,
thing.
that's an understatement. Um, no pun intended. But you know, it, what you're really saying though is you're working really hard to improve our city at multi levels.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I'll let you have that follow up with Sean.
Okay, yeah. So follow-up question from Sean: is there a way citizens can help find a list of projects that would qualify that they could then present to your department? So, um,
How do citizens help you search out opportunities? If I think I might answer this for you in a sense.
okay,
I think if there's a grant out there, you're going to find it.
yeah, yeah. If there's a grant out there and it's a project that qualifies for a grant, then we're gonna pursue it.
But
You
if
know,
there's a
but
citizens movement out there that is not a project for you, how would they find something and then use that to catapult into what you're doing and maybe make it a city project or get some help?
The best way to do that is to take it to commission. If there's a project that that
Great.
they want to see, in any because okay, so I work for the city manager, so that's where my orders come from, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
uh, yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
So our budget is kind of in our capital improvement projects, right? Those are the projects that are on our radar right now because those are the ones that like we have a 5 year, we're working on a 10 year project list. Those are the things that we're looking for grants for. We're like checking the timing of those to line things up with our department. So, and it trickles down for our city commission. Our city commission is the one that during budget time, we have the budget hearings and everything. Those are the projects that we're looking at.
That I'm glad you kind of, it's a great question by Sean, because it kind of leads into what I asked earlier about the structure, because what you're really working on, you've already been directed to do
Yes.
through the chain of command. So we've
Yes.
got the city commission who guides the city manager who guides the underlying departments, and really the chain of command is set in tone like that.
Yeah.
And if there is an outside project, it has to be introduced at the start of the process with the commissions first, and
Yes.
then they address it and move on. So if there was, uh, let's say, a grant that somebody found for a senior center that you're not
Yes.
looking for, they could
Yeah.
actually take that and run
Yeah.
with it and bring it to the city commission, and then it would filter down to you.
Yeah, if somebody sees grants out there that we should be looking at, people can email me directly. I don't mind. I've had people email me before. My email's down there at the bottom. So if you're
Oh,
out there and you see something, people can email me. Go ahead and do it. It's great because sometimes I don't see everything. And another thing is, we're not a nonprofit either, so we're a local government, right? So there's some grants out there that we're just not eligible for because of our status, basically, as a local government and not as a nonprofit. So, it's little things like that.
that's where the nonprofit. It's funny. I'm glad that I am really glad. CBRA, Community Broadband Radio Association, we're a 501c3. So our mission is focused on the citizens. If there were a grant for us out there that worked in combination with a city project, it
Sure. Yeah.
you engage with one of the city leaders, city commissioners, one of the five of them, and get that implementation going. That's a
Yep.
completely different process.
Yeah.
But a lot of these organizations, I said it to one of them the other day, because I like to hitch a wagon. 501c3 is a wagon, and the city has hitches. You got to find out how to hitch your wagon to their hitch, and
Yeah.
it's all about the structure, the timing, what you find, how you have financing, and it can't be financing a lot of times where the city's going to step in and cut a check, because it doesn't work that way. You can't. There's a whole different process there. So matching funds, different things along those lines, like the arts center,
Right.
and the senior center, and gosh, if we
Right.
had empty buildings everywhere, we'd be blessed because we could handle things different. We're in a city with, I would consider us really tight on empty space, and it's, I mean, even for city staff, we're tight. You go to city hall, we got people in closets. You go to the police department, they're in closets. I where are we going to put more? And we're growing. So I think people need to understand that we're with you, what you're doing, and the city management side of things, trying to, I think, put some guidelines in for future growth. We all saw what happened with Price Boulevard. With I don't even know how many times we're at cost now. 10, 12, 14 times the cost, for delay. And I said this the other day, and you're probably going to laugh and say you're probably right, but the flood itself, if we'd have fixed it back then, yeah, we'd have paid for it, but we'd have fixed it again. So
Yeah.
there is something to be said about the delay of Price Boulevard, because the expenditure that we spent back then probably would have been wiped away, because we were not going to build it the same way that we are today.
Right. And we were able to get a $1.5 million grant for Price Boulevard for that section because those roadways washed away. We asked for a lot more. We tried for 10 million. That's
Right.
what we needed, but we were only awarded, $1.5 million, which is, something's better than nothing. We'll take it. But, because of that flooding that took place, we were able to go and get some grant funds for that project.
Absolutely.
Hopefully it'll be
Sean's
open.
got another. Oh, go ahead.
All right. With the question
sorry.
popped up. Oh, here you go. Sounds like the majority of your grants are for construction projects. Yes, they are. Are there ever been any grants available for purchasing vacant lots for green space and park buffers? There's grants out there for that. Yes. We have up at the Malignowski Environmental Park up there in the Estates. There was land purchased through a state grant for a lot of that property. So we do apply for grants for green space on occasion. Yes.
We also have some organizations that are doing that too. I think in the city, don't we? That are buying up space.
Yeah, there's the one environmental group that I think they just recently renamed themselves, and I don't remember what the new name is. It's like neighborhood.
Me either.
Yeah.
I just know they're there. They're there. I know I've talked about them in the past. I have not had a chance to interview them, but I think everything goes through transition. But I know that there are a lot of people out there that are concerned about the green space and the buffers. And I'm going to say this because I don't know that we're not actively doing that. I think we are committed from city commission on down. I think everybody has the directive to have great parks and buffers, because our parks and rec division is off the chain when it comes to that. Now we need to spread the wealth all over our city, and we are looking at doing that as we grow. But do you feel this, like analyzing it from a grant side of things, do you feel the same way about the approach from the powers above you?
Yeah, I feel that way too. I think when it comes to grants and open space, a lot of it's based on contingent land too, right? So grants don't want us randomly going around the city buying parcels unless if there's some other reason for it. Like the Malignowski Creek Greenway, I'll use an example. That's great for grants because it's contingent parcels that we already own. It has a master plan for that area. We do have 2 grants right now to buy 2 properties that actually have buildings on it in the Malignowski Creek area. It was a voluntary buyout program that Sarasota County offered through the Resilient SRQ. And we did have 2 homeowners that were eligible and willing, as of right now, sellers. So we're just starting the process with them, and that will turn into vacant land. Whenever those 2 parcels are acquired, they'll be demoed, and that will turn back into open space. So I feel like the city, is conscious of that and supportive of that.
I've interviewed, I think you're in a different position than citizens are. And it's because your management and there is a real weird caveat to this whole conversation, because being the manager and being on the side of governance, there's a structure you have to stay within. Us citizens, we could do and say and make claims about anything we want to, and that there is no rule against being for or pro or not. And it's kind of weird how that works, but it's kind of
It is. Yeah. I used to work for City of Venice, but I was a Northport resident. So, I could have my voice before, but
yeah.
Now I got to be in the government lane.
It's sort of like some of the questions are, I can't use my voice on this. I have to be management.
Yeah,
And
no. But seriously, like I do feel like the city recognizes that, green space is important. It is,
I,
Um,
I
yeah,
truly believe after talking with every single one of the commissioners, they all feel the same way,
yeah,
and it filters down to the city manager, because I know he feels that way. I know it from talking with him, and so you got five of the top leaders in a city who are really designed around that commitment, and you can see it. It's evident. It's they're not getting rid of anything. They're working through processes on how to pay for things.
yeah,
I think that's the
yeah,
biggest struggle. I think if we could say anything about leadership, it's they're listening to people, but you can't have instant gratification. And
yeah,
Amarillo
yeah,
Springs is like the perfect example of how many years have we owned it, and look at it today. There's no difference. In fact, it's deteriorated if you really want to know the truth. And we've done a great job maintaining it. So it's like you can have the best of both worlds in the same conversation, but have no true massively improved product. And would you agree with that statement?
yeah,
Without without being management, with being management
yeah,
cautious,
yeah,
that
yeah,
because and I think everybody's focused on the end outcome, but I think that everybody hears, and I can't remember the guy's name. Gosh, he'd run around with the question marks on his jacket and sell books. Grants, look, free grant money, free, buy my book. Well, gosh, if it was that easy, holy cow. And now that we have the current scenario in our government above, not our city government, but state and federal, the control of all these grants and funding sources are being analyzed at a completely different pace now. How has that affected your job?
yeah. Well, it's affected us, number one, with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. The grant that's been sitting out there for 2 years. Don't know if we got it or not. Another one for a year. Also, I've noticed that some of the agencies are being a little stricter about, how you're spending the funds, those types of things. They're doing more desk audits. Just making sure all the checks and balances are there, and we're seeing a little bit more pressure
Right.
on that. So, for example, we have two state pass-through community development block grants that are disaster related, from Ian, or no, Irma actually. And those ones, the state wants to hold our hand every single second of the process. When we went out to bid for the bids that were just recently open, they wanted to see every amendment that was done. They want to review the bids. They're getting much more involved in the grants. You know.
I think that it's kind of ironic that we haven't had um, a rate increase for 6 years in our city and our millage rate, and everybody wants not to pay a higher millage rate, but they want more service. And so I there's limits to when you're cutting down on intake. Well, if you stream that up the line in the grant writing, in the funding sources there, and the fact that even the percentage you get back now from a hurricane damage, they just adjusted that too, didn't they?
It's still 75-25. It's actually 75 federal emergency management, 25 local government, but it could go up to 90% federal, and as low as 5% for the city, because the state helps too. But that's only if the president declares that that's what he wants to do. But if FEMA is working on some new guidelines, though, and there's supposed to be a new plan that was supposed to come out last month. It didn't come out, and it's a new framework of how our reimbursement is going to work. And We haven't seen it yet. I don't know what it's in there. But the rumors are, I know, yeah. The rumors are, though, that when we have a storm, we have to give FEMA our initial estimates right away. So like the roof blows off the fire station again, which I hope it won't because we just replaced it. They want to know how much damage is there, and then they would give us what we thought our estimate was, and turn that into like a block grant, basically, which is where they formulate how much money they're going to give you, meaning the federal government. So that picture may completely change. I do not know when. We're waiting. And I hope it's before hurricane season, because I'd like to have a plan in place before hurricane season.
Woo! Yes, and I can see this now that our EOC is going to have to go larger, because you guys might be writing grants as the hurricanes are hitting.
Yeah. I don't know what that picture is going to look like. And we work with our EOC really closely, like our EM, our emergency managers, closely. They're great. We talk to them all the time. But boy, we may have to restructure how we're doing things. And we actually have a what do they call that whenever you practice? It's just like a practice thing, for hurricane season coming up here pretty soon, that would base that model off of that. Like, we need estimates right now. So we're going to start practicing that.
So we got about three minutes left, but we just said magical words to my ears, because I love our EOC. I've served 2 hurricanes inside those walls. I am very blessed to have seen the excellence that we have there, with Stacy Alosio and Mike, and their team, and the inner workings of that whole structure is. I get goosebumps when I talk about it. I brag about it. I'm super excited about it. I can't believe we don't talk about it more, and I can't wait to talk about it more, because it is such an essential part of what happens in a hurricane. And I saw it when nothing was happening, and then I saw it when it was coming at us, and the preparation and the care and the focus and the drive to take care of citizens. And I can see it and hear it in your voice, though, the stress of going into hurricane season with unsure plan. That doesn't work well when you're dealing with an emergency situation.
Yeah. Luckily, our emergency managers and that whole emergency operations center crew, they're fantastic. They're absolutely amazing. We have staff there, like my own staff's there whenever we have a hurricane. They're very good. They've been through it a lot of times, with the disasters, and we just deal with it every time, but I just really hope we have some guidance before the season starts.
Well, and I'm nearing the end, but I'm going to tell you, I say it to people all the time, and they say that I'm just connected to the city too much. I don't see things. What I see is, in talking with you, greatness and the commitment to our city. I say that about a lot of departments in our city, because truthfully, if you dissect what we have in our city, in our governance of our city, I'll match you guys up to anyone out there. I say that with the biggest amount of grace I can give you guys. And I know that my job is not perfect, and I know your job is not perfect, but I got to tell you, I've seen you guys in action. I know what you do. I know what you're going after. I know what your focus is. And I wish more people would see it and see the commitment level that is driving our city to greatness. And I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Like, as a grants manager, I never in a million years thought I'd be on a radio interview that's going live on Facebook. So thank you. Nobody cares about grants, really. And Sean, I wanted to thank you for your questions too. That's really great. I love it. I really appreciate it. I'm glad somebody's listening. So
yeah,
thank you for that.
Listen, they do listen. The question is, are they hearing? That's always the key question. But I really appreciate you taking your time out. I appreciate the city for allowing me to help educate the community and get this information out, because you are a vital part of our success. And the fact that you're there doing what you're doing makes us a stronger community together. So
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You guys have a blessed day.
You too.
I
Thank
have
you.
a family situation. I'm actually sitting up in Sarasota, getting ready to run back into SMH, but I everything is cool. But hang in there. I may not do Friday's show. I may, but if not, join me on Monday at 3:05. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for everything there, Valerie.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye bye now.
Bye.